So 10% of the companies in this room are making significantly more money than the other 90%. Pretty good start, right? Do you want to know how? Okay. So what I'm going to do in the next half an hour, and hopefully we'll have time for questions as well, is show you what they're doing and make you a bold promise. That is, if you do the same thing, I guarantee you, you'll make more money with Google. I'm going to guarantee you. And we're seeing this with a lot of customers right now, making a lot more money every day. And let me summarize it real quick, and then we'll get into the content. But it's really a mentality. It's a huge difference in mentality. The mentality of the top advertisers who are making all this money is they think like a sequoia. Their key goal is to grow and dominate. They want to win. And many of the other competitors they compete against think like bonsai, trimming and saving and trimming and saving. It's a huge difference. So let's start with a quiz. Which advertiser would you rather be? Advertiser A, who's getting customers from Google at a $100 cost of acquisition and has a 10-to-1 ROI, or advertiser B, that's paying $200 for a new customer and has a 5-to-1 ROI? Who'd rather be A? And you have to raise your hand for one or the other. You can't like waffle in the middle. Who'd rather be A? And who'd rather be B? All right. The answer is, it depends. Like in the previous slide, there's no notion of how many customers they were getting. It was only an efficiency metric. All right? Would you rather have an ROI of 10-to-1 if you invest $1 and make $10, or 5-to-1 ROI if you invest $1 million and make $5 million? ROI and CPA are really bad metrics. They have no concept of the size of the investment. Kind of business school 101, right? What you really want to do is the net present value of your investment. So let's go through it, right? Advertiser A invests $100 in a new customer. They get 10 a day. Let's assume they make $1,000 per conversion, right? They made $10,000, 10 times 1,000. Their investment was $1,000. Now 100 times 10. Advertiser B, right? Follow the math. $20,000 of gross margin, $4,000 of investment. Under traditional performance metrics of CPA and ROI, A looks a lot better. But if you think through it and you do the net present value, B is trouncing A. This is the core insight I want you to think about. It seems obvious. 10% of you are doing this right now. So let me pause on this for a second. Right? This is the difference between people who are killing it on Google and people who are trying to catch up. Why? Because profits is the only metric that adds the concept of efficiency and volume together. Right? How many times do you go into your Google investment and like for a quarter we want more, and next quarter we want to be more efficient? And your marketing team is getting shifted back and forth between efficiency and volume, and they can't figure out what to do. This is why. But if you do profits, you're going to marry efficiency and volume together, and they'll be able to optimize that metric. Frankly, and this is where the bold promise is, if you optimize profits, and that's your core KPI, your profits will rise. That KPI will go up. That's what's been optimized. If you optimize CPA and ROI, ROI will go up, not profits. I work with about 500 advertisers at Google. They're all really performance-driven advertisers. They're all very savvy. And I've been able to kind of categorize them into different tiers of advertisers. And this is not scientific, but this is my personal opinion. I see about 15% of the advertisers that I work with that have a fixed budget. Regardless of how well they're doing with Google or how much volume there's available, they have a budget and they can't go past that. They don't make that much money. Whenever I see an advertiser with a fixed budget, I know they won't be able to compete as well as the others. Why? Because they don't match consumer demand whatsoever, and they turn off the money printing machine to save electricity. Right? I mean, if you know that you put $1 into Google and $10 comes out the other side, and you turn it off, and somebody else is turning it on, they're going to print the money, and you're not going to print the money. If you're here trying to get to the next level, it's really, really important. And if you think that large companies can't do this, they can all the time. They just talk to their CFO, they talk to their CEO, and they have a different set of KPIs and a budget, and it works. Then there's the bulk of the advertisers. I imagine the bulk of you as well, right? who say, look, I don't have a fixed budget. Give me as many customers as possible, as long as it hits my target CPA or my target ROI. This is fantastic. There is nothing wrong with that. It's significantly better than this, because you're letting the consumer drive your marketing spend, not the other way around, right? By the way, have fun next quarter trying to forecast your budget and the consumer demand for the next quarter and see what the demand really was after the fact. Ask your Google team, like, look, how much could I have spent if I'd forecasted properly? And you'll be 20% off. Forecasting's impossible nowadays. So these advertisers do really, really well, but they have this problem, which is CPA and ROI create an efficiency mindset, not a growth mindset. Oh my goodness, my CPA is 42, I want to target 40, cut, right? And then there's these kind of 10% of advertisers who basically come to us and say, we want to own it, we want to make as much money as possible, go, 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 and they crush it. They make significantly more money than the other three. I'll share a few examples. Beyond the Rack is a company out of Montreal. It's like the Guild Group of Canada, a customer of mine from a year ago. They were very CPA driven. Like, we want a low CPA, low CPA. Richard Coheney, who became a great friend, used to call me at 2 o'clock in the morning, like, my CPA is up by a penny. Like, what the hell's going on, right? And he used to challenge us to grow his business at his fixed CPA, and we tried, and we just couldn't do it. Like, this is as much volume as you're going to get at your $10 CPA. And these guys raised $25 million about 6 months ago, and they had to hit the gas. Like, the mentality had to shift, right? And then he came to us and said, we want to grow, and it just skyrocketed, just because the mentality shifted, and it was an extraordinary success. We have plenty of examples as well, but one of my favorites is Autobytel. This company's been around for 15 years. They know everything there is to know about Google marketing. They're killing it, right? Super savvy, super great. But they had a CPA mentality, and they were kind of tapped out. Like, we can't grow with Google anymore. We have to look for other channels because we get all the customers we're ever going to get. They changed their mindset to profits, and a year later, they were growing at 60% in terms of profits and revenue, the whole company. It's pretty amazing. We have some B2B examples as well. We're working on them. They're not shareable yet, but this is not a B2C story. It's just a math story, frankly. This applies to every company that can track the profits of a customer. So let's talk about how to do this. Like, it seems rather obvious, right? Like, this is obvious, Nick. But why are 10% of advertisers only doing this? Because it's not that easy to do. Let's be honest. It's a little difficult. I'll share with you exactly how to do it. If you choose to do it, you're going to see some amazing successes. The first thing to do is change your KPI, right? If you're going to maximize profits, make profits your core KPI. And that's kind of hard to do because CPA is easy to track. We know exactly what it is. ROI is relatively easy to track. Profit's a little harder. But as you see, it's not that hard. All right, so let's kind of go through it. A typical kind of B2B client of mine, this is how they would do it. They would think about, look, I get 25,000 visits from Google, right? I know this for a fact. I know how many people fill up my lead form. I know this for a fact. Then I kind of lose track here a little bit. I can't tell exactly how many of those turn into customers because my CRM is kind of broken and I can't fix it. But let's approximate it to 20%. Then I can't tell how many of these folks go into my site and don't fill out a lead form but call me instead. But yeah, I think it's about twice. So, okay, look, I get 1,000 sales out of this investment, right? Great. Then you go, okay, well, look, when we think about a customer, and look, every customer is different, so we need to segment them over time, but at first, just do the average, right? What's an average customer look like? Well, we make $10,000 over 3 years. What's the lifetime value, not the first purchase of this customer? And what are our gross margins? So, like, look, customer's worth $9,000. We invested $1 million, we made $8 million. Right? And I know there's some complexity around this, and I know it's not as easy as it seems. My advice is get started. Put approximate numbers in there, and if you're worried that they're wrong, be very conservative, right? Make sure you undershoot as opposed to overshoot, and then correct over time, right? But there are companies in your space doing this right now. They figured it out, and they're really crushing it. So get started today and trying to figure this out. It's not that hard. Don't overcomplicate it. Get it to an approximate number, and it's a good way to get started. And then what these companies do is they actually create a dashboard. This is their marketing dashboard with Google. Like, it's how much money we made last year in the blue, here's how much money we're making right now. And we're looking to grow how much money we're making as much as possible. And the marketing team's goal is basically to make that curve as steep as possible and to grow, grow, grow. Right? They have their investment, they have their profits this month, they have the profits year on year, they know the clicks, the conversion rate. They track a few things. They don't track CPA, they don't track ROI, they track profits. Okay, imagine if your marketing team was trying to grow this red line, and that was what they were doing all day long. The stuff they would figure out, right? They would sit together with Google and think about new strategies, new tactics to grow and find more money. And it will make all the difference. And we, on Google side, we love this, right? Because it's challenging for us, right? You come to us and say, hey, we want to make more money. We got to go on the hunt for new stuff for you. We got to think, we got to be creative, and we love it. It also aligns our incentives really properly, right? I mean, to be honest, Google will also make more money, right? I'm the first one to admit that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the fact that Google makes more money when you make more money. Like, talk about a great partnership, right? The incentives are purely aligned, right? You're going to make more money, and we're only going to earn more money if we help you make more money. I love waking up in the morning doing this. I think it's fabulous. And I wish more advertisers were doing it this way as opposed to, find my CPA, which, by the way, is nearly always arbitrary. Like, ask yourselves, how did you come up with this $40 CPA? Where does it come from? I was an advertiser on Google for 12 years, and I spent $15 million. It came out of whatever the heck I was thinking in the morning, right? There was no math behind it. There was no science. I just made it up. And I would go to my marketing team, and whenever they were off that CPA by a penny, I would scream at them because the CPA is too high. And I never thought about the balance between CPA and volume. And I made that mistake constantly. That's why I'm so passionate about this. Don't make that mistake. Don't focus on efficiency alone. You're missing the whole point. Focus on efficiency and volume and that trade-off that you can make between the two. And look, it is not easy, right? I get a lot of pushback on this, and I'll be honest about it. I said, look, we can't measure profits accurately. Then don't. Measure them approximately. Start with that, right? And then when you figure out what's missing, you'll get to it. It'll take you 6 months, it'll take you 9 months, it'll take you a year, but it's actually the right thing to do. You need to follow these customers, see what happens after they click, after they fill out that form. How do they convert? Do they come back and buy some more? It'll just bring you so much intelligence about your entire marketing cycle. It's really powerful. Hey, Nick, you showed this $10,000 over 3 years. We don't believe in lifetime value. No, we don't think this way. That's okay, right? The profit formula is entirely yours. It's not for Google to decide. You decide what it is. I'll say, however, that if you don't think about lifetime value and you only think about the cash that you get from a new customer in the first 6 months or first year, and one of your competitors knows that people spend a lot more money in the next 3 years, imagine what they can do back on the auction on the Google side. Right? They compete against you. They're going to trounce you, right? Because they know a customer is worth 3 times more than what you think it's worth. Like, why is that advertiser always in position 1, and why am I fighting to get there? It's because they think this way. They think a customer is worth $9,000, and you think it's worth $3,000. You can't compete. This is really, really important. Look, hey, look, Nick, if we increase our marketing and then we get these revenues trailing over the next 3 years, our marketing as a percentage of sales will go up in the short term. That's true. That happens, right? The marketing goes up, and then the revenues don't happen right away. Look, I mean, as a company, if you can't think about more than a quarter ahead, right, when you think about consumers and online marketing, it's going to be tough, right? You got to have this 3-year, 5-year mentality, and you got to build for the future. Like, Amazon wasn't built in a day, and neither were great advertisers on Google. And then lastly, we hear a lot of like, look, what happens if we do this? I don't have enough cash to do this. I have to ask for more budget. We'll have 1 or 2 bad quarters. This is true as well. But again, like, the trade-off between doing this and then knowing how many customers you're missing by not thinking this way is staggering. Ask your Google team to show you, what am I missing? Like, because of my low CPA, because of the CPA that I have today, what would happen if I was more aggressive? And then see the difference. Is it, can you get 20% more customers, or 2x or 3x? And if it's really big, then it's a really big opportunity. So, okay, so we're measuring profits now, not CPA, right? That's the first step. Second step is like, what do we do now, right? There's a lot to do, but I'm going to share the most important thing you can do on any auction-based platform. And any digital media, whether it's Google or Yahoo or others, whether it's search or display, if you're thinking about performance, a great proportion of what you need to do is bid properly. Because it's a huge determinant for how much volume you're going to get, how many customers you're going to get. Bidding is crucial. So I'm going to focus on that for a second, right? I don't know if you know this, but there's 3 ads on the top at Google and search. There's 8 on the side. There's 2 at the bottom sometimes. There's 13 ads on one page, right? And I can't share with you the exact numbers, but I'm cheating a little bit by putting like proportionately correct graphics. I hope I don't get in trouble for doing that. I don't think I will. Here's how many clicks happen on these 8 ads, right? And here's how many clicks happen on these 3 ads. The eye of the customer, whether it's B2C or B2B, goes here, just because that's where we look as customers. The point of this is if you're not here, you just really are not getting a lot of volume. And the real insight here is to think about, can I afford profitably, like I'm not asking you to bid higher just for the sake of bidding higher to make Google more money, right? But can I afford profitably to shift these ads from here to here, and especially this one in position 4, we call it, to position 3. That's a sweet spot, right? Because the costs don't go up that much and the volume skyrockets, right? Ask your Google team to help you think about shifting stuff here to there and doing these tests. Can you do this profitably? Some of them won't work. They should go back to where they were, right? Because the top's too expensive. When you find places where it does work, the volume skyrockets. And you'll thank your team for this. So look for ways to bid to the top, right? We call it top slot. And do this all the time. Don't stop. Any ad that's on the side, continuously test it. What I want you to do is get in this mindset of always testing your cost versus volume trade-off. It should become a habit. It should become something that you do all the time. This is the #1 thing that top advertisers do on Google. And here's a test, right? You spend $1 per click, to get at position 4. It's $1.50 to get to position 3. Can I afford it? Well, here's a CPA. Here's a number of conversions. Did I make more money, yes or no, off that? And in this case, you did. In some cases, you won't. This is better than that one, right? Test your bids all the time. Your team can do this. It's not very hard. Again, only do this if you're making more money. Pull back if you're not, right? And what you're really trying to do is figure out the trade-off between the cost to acquire a customer and the volume, all right? I mean, as you invest more per customer, your revenue will skyrocket and eventually plateau. Like, you shouldn't be here, right? You're paying too much, and the volume isn't going anywhere. It's a bad place to be. But you shouldn't be here before you've hit the hockey stick, right? You're trying to find the place where you make the most amount of money possible. And again, your Google team can help you with that. You'll never find it exactly, by the way. You'll never be perfect. But the fact that you're looking for it will make you a lot better than the others. So we changed our KPI to profit. We're thinking about bidding all the time, right? We're really, really trying to optimize our bids. It's really, really important. Then I'm going to share with you 2 or 3 growth mentalities or concepts that I'd like you to think about. Like how to change your mindset to a growth advertiser, to a Sequoia, right? Not a bonsai. The first one is choose to grow. I mean, it sounds simple, but just choose to grow. Tell your marketing team we want to grow with Google, right? As long as we're making money. This is the story from Richard, right? Richard Coheney, who became one of my best friends, and they had to grow. It's like, look, we need 3 or 4 times more customers. And this was Richard the old days, right? My CPA has to be flat, This company, which is a fairly large company already, got 6 times more customers from Google in a span of 3 months by choosing a growth mindset. Now, here's what happened on the negative side. This was bad, right? The cost of acquisition started to skyrocket to get to that volume, right? Boom. And listen, I'm not going to lie, Richard was really nervous. I mean, he would call me once a week, right? He was freaking out. But then we found the volume and then we optimized. We trimmed it back, right? So now he's back to almost his original cost of acquisition. He's paying more per customer, and he's got 6 times as many. The mindset here is grow, grow, trim. Grow, grow, trim. Not trim, 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 right? If you want to create a bonsai, you trim, trim, and you're like, hey, I'm not growing. If you want to create a Sequoia, grow, grow, and then trim a few branches. Grow, grow, trim. Grow, grow, trim. The second principle I want you to think about, which is a really important one, is Let's assume that you found like a CPA that you're happy with that maximizes your profits, right? Let's say it's $50. At $50, that trade-off between volume and price is great. You're really happy. You're going to continue testing, right? But let's see you at $50 for a while. Don't ask your marketing team or your agency to hit the $50 every day, right? Because then they're going to be shackled. They can't test anything new. They can't try anything, right? They can't go anywhere. Instead, say, look, hit my $50 over a month or over a quarter, whatever time period you're comfortable with. And so look, I'm not going to freak out if it goes up for a while, but I want you to hit the 50 over time, right? Grow, grow, trim, grow, grow, trim. This allows your agency or your marketing team to try new stuff that doesn't work well at first. Look, whenever you try a new tactic at Google, right, it takes like a month or two, right? At first, it kind of sucks. And then we optimize it, and it gets really good. But if you can't try it, or if you freak out after a week of trying something new and you shut it down, you're never going to grow. Grow, grow, trim, test, test, optimize, test, test, optimize, grow, grow, trim. And lastly, this is one of my favorites, and I was like the guiltiest person of all marketers at Google thinking this way. Like, imagine you've got a Google account, right, and you're really happy with the results. Like, you're hitting your $50 CPA, you get 100 conversions a day, you're making $5,000 per day, assuming you make $100 per conversion. But some of the tactics don't look as good. Like, hey, look, display is expensive, and mobile doesn't work that well, and my generic desktop search isn't that good compared to my brand. Whoa, 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 let's trim this, right? I mean, I don't want to pay $70. I'm trying to pay $50 on display. I see this every day. I did this every day. You bring it back to 50 across every tactic, right? Hey, the CPA goes down to 40, which is great. You just tanked your volume. Why? Because these tactics work really well together. And we're not that good at measuring that stuff yet, right? Like, display doesn't look that good on a last click conversion, but then people see your ads, click your ads, then they go back to search and buy from search. Generic queries don't look that good. People like type in, auto parts, right? And then they'll find it, they'll go to your site, they'll go to your competitor's site, then they'll finally convert on the brand query. And we can't fully put that together. I'll give you an example. In my last startup, I thought I was doing a brilliant move. I asked my team to find every keyword that had never converted in the history of the company, right? Like, okay, find me every keyword that's totally useless. There were 65,000 of them, and we spent on a daily basis 20% of our spend with Google, which was $100,000 a day, on these keywords. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just saved us $20,000, right? We yanked them all. These keywords had a CP of infinity that never converted. They were totally useless, right? Our volume tanked 2 weeks later. We couldn't figure it out, and we never got it back. Stuff works together. Think holistically. If you're happy with the results, right, look for growth. Don't tinker too much with trying to optimize every single part of it. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't optimize, right? You should cut the fat, but sometimes when you cut the fat, you think you're cutting the fat, but you're actually cutting the bone. And it's hard to tell which is which, right? So as long as you're doing well, look for growth, and then trim later, the stuff that's obviously really bad. But if you're looking to trim all the time across every tactic, you're going to pigeonhole yourself into a corner and you won't be able to grow. And I think Richard's quote here is very telling. I mean, this guy used to obsess over every line item, everything, right? And now he just tells his team, look, as long as you hit maximum profit, do whatever you want. Also, by the way, it feels really good for a marketing team to be told that. Like, you figure it out. I trust you. Make us more money. I want to see a report every week showing us we're making more money. Go ahead. So I hope this was helpful. If you think about it, right, to make the most amount of money with Google, focus on making money, not saving money or not CPAs. 1. 2, bidding is nearly everything. Bid to maximum profit, not lowest possible CPA. And 3, grow a sequoia, not a bonsai. Think about growth first, not trimming. And you'll get there. And by the way, I don't know if you knew this. I didn't know this until yesterday. Sequoias tend to grow faster as they get older and taller. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They grow, they get more light, and they grow even faster, continue to win. And I see this every day. Advertisers who start to win and dominate their industries on Google get really good at this really fast, and there's a fast cycle of improvement, and they just take over. So I wish you guys that you can hopefully build some sequoias and not some bonsais. And we have a few minutes to take some questions, so thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, hi. So that model works great for like one-click e-commerce type of models, but when you're talking about B2B, 12 to 18 month cycles, and you start talking about attribution, that's when trying to optimize the profit gets difficult because you have a bunch of different things that happen in between, so it's hard to take that number. I mean, I'd love to take that number and say, hey, this is what we're doing, but you have a bunch of other people involved, you have sales involved, they're taking, well, you're only worth a certain percentage. So how do you factor in allocations, especially over a long B2B business cycle with trying to optimize the profits?
Yeah, that's a great question, and listen, and it's not simple, right? So I think, I'm not suggesting it's going to be easy to do, but the effort to get there is so worthwhile that I would recommend doing it. So look, I mean, if you have an 18-month sales cycle, will you ever be 100% comfortable that you can tie your marketing to your sales perfectly? I don't think you'll ever get there. But can you get yourself into an 80% confidence zone of what's driving those sales, right? Can you get the person to come into your site, get them to fill out a form or call you, keep that attribution back to the ad, that's pretty easy, right? And then through your CRM, over the course of many months, tie that back to that ad. Tons of companies are doing it, but it's a lot of work, absolutely. And there are many people involved. You got sales and you got marketing disagreeing on what's driving what, right? My suggestion, by the way, is to create a team that combines these people together. You create a war room of profit maximization, and you have a salesperson, you have a marketing person, you have a finance person, you have a BI person, and you figure this out, and you peel the onion. Like the first few months, you won't be very confident that you're getting there. 6 months in, you'd be like, oh my goodness, we're like 60% confident that these numbers are approximately correct. And a year in, you'll be like, okay, we got this. The effort, the journey is worth the effort because it's not just a Google thing, right? When you start trusting your marketing numbers and your marketing dashboards, your entire marketing gets better. Right? And if you can't follow what happens after the click and you have no idea, then it becomes a game of opinions, right? Not facts. And that's when marketing gets all screwy. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth the effort. And a lot of customers are doing it in B2B very successfully with long sales cycles. I'm seeing it all the time. Yeah.
Can you speak to the strategy that you were telling Richard when he was calling you at maybe 2 in the morning, panicked, because I think the leash is short for a lot of companies in terms of risk. And having been behind the walls here for a better part of a decade and being outside, it's a much different story when you're telling somebody to wait 1 to 2 quarters with a marketing budget that's potentially tanking or performance is tanking. So if you could speak to any strategies there, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So I think when you embark on something like this, get some quick wins, right? Prove the points. Like, for example, before you go to a CEO or a CMO with an idea like this, do a few tests to show, like, oh my goodness, look, if we bid higher, look at the volume. Look, make them think big. Show them the opportunity, not just the downside. So the opportunity is big. And look, there's some realities as well, right? It's going to take a couple of quarters. So we may look bad for a little bit. We're going to have these or these issues. But I think a CEO and a CMO, when confronted with the possibility of doubling or tripling the number of customers they get from Google or other platforms, will pay attention. But it's an iterative process. It's not going to happen overnight. Nobody gets this perfectly, by the way. There's always back and forth. But the customers who are doing it are absolutely outperforming. So it's worth the effort. But yes, there's some real selling to do internally. There's some real math to do and attribution to do internally as well. By the way, these are the real obstacles. And that's why people who've gone through them and are doing it are also relatively safe from competition right now. Because the rest are like, oh my goodness, it's going to take me 6 months or 9 months to do this. It's a lot of work. They've already done it, right? So it's actually a nice competitive advantage because if it was really easy, if you just had turn on, and the clicks on Google and pay a little more and you were getting more customers, everyone would be doing it. It's not the case. It's kind of hard. So the top, advertisers are really outperforming. Yeah.
Hang on for the microphone.
So microphone's right there.
Rush up growth, etc. My question is for advertisers who have a heavy dependency on branded traffic, which has been, let's say, saturated, and they see the potential to the non-brand generic traffic, and obviously a lot of things can be cannibalized there. How do you guys advise moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, so I think Mike showed some really good stats earlier saying, like, look, I think it was 74% of consumers, B2B consumers, will look for non-branded things first and not brands. Put yourself in the shoes of one of your customers, right? I'm looking for, whatever, right? Auto parts again. I'm not looking for Meineke auto parts. I'm looking for auto parts. In auto insurance, for example, it's like a stratospheric percentage of the queries for consumers are auto insurance California, not Geico auto insurance. So first of all, you should know that. Like, how does your consumer behave? Are they really brand heavy, or are they non-brand sensitive? And Google can tell you that. That's like kind of fun, right? What percentage of consumers look for a brand? What brands are they looking for? What percentage don't look for a brand? In my experience in nearly every industry, the percentage of people who look for a brand first before having done the non-brand research is tiny. So that's the moment of truth you have to win, right? Somebody who's looking for something in your industry. They're not looking for your brand yet. They're not convinced, despite all the other marketing that you do. They're on the fence. They're going to go see 1 or 2 sites, maybe 3, back to Mike's point. You got to win them right there, right? So that's those generic queries when people are looking for something in your industry, that's what you have to win. The way to win those is to understand that those keywords are not keywords that will lead to a conversion the next day. They're keywords that will lead people to come back to Google, search for your brand, then convert. If you think this way and you can make the connection between those steps, you can afford to buy those expensive generic keywords. If you don't, and you look at them in isolation, you will not be able to play. Look at them together. All the keywords together, perform together. If you look at keyword by keyword and you expect them all to work, it's like a soccer team, right? Don't just give credit to the person who put the ball in the net. Give credit to all the passes that happened before. If you missed a pass, if you weren't there for one of the generic queries, they won't do your brand query at all. And we see this over and over again. When people start to invest more in generic search, we see their brand queries spike through the roof, right? Showing the point about generics driving brand queries. Take a couple more if you have time.
Yeah, we do. That or they're hungry, one of the two.
You guys are hungry? Oh, that's good. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Enjoy lunch.
Thanks, Nick. That was awesome. Thank you so much.